And she was like, "Oh, like I'm putting together a program at the league office for former players that want to become refs." And I was like, "What?" She was like, "Would you be interested in doing it full time?" So I put together. She was like, "Send me your referee resume."
Yeah.
I don't
Hold
have
on.
one. I've
What does
been
that? Time
refereeing.
out. Time out. Time out. What does a referee resume look like?
Yeah, now it's like my referee resume is more robust, but at the time it was like, okay, I've done 30, like 12 and under games. Like I'm part of this like referee group. It was very like
Yeah.
haphazard. So a lot of filler information on there. So I sent her that in my professional resume, and I got to interview for the position, and I was one of the 8 selected. So
Wow.
life changing opportunity.
That's
And that was the first class that they had, and now I think there's been like 3 or 4 classes total.
Yo, what's up, everybody? It's your boy Armand back again with another episode of Big Boss Talk, the podcast. Listen, I got another top tier guest. It's gonna be a great episode because I'm tapping into a different career path than I haven't even talked to anybody that has been in these career paths. So I got a lot of good questions. Hopefully, my guests they're gonna have a good time. I always hope that the guests leave and they were like, man, this is great. I know sometimes it's nerve wracking when you're on a podcast. You just don't know what kind of questions they're gonna ask, how it's gonna go, but it's gonna go great. I already know. So let me get into the guest and who I got. Okay, so I got Gerda Gatling, age 31. Her career science job. She's a software engineer. She's also a basketball official. College degree, Stony Brook University with a BS in business and economics. Years in the profession, I believe software engineer will probably be 2.5 years, and then basketball official will be 6 years. So combined, we're coming up on a decade of just experience all together. So she's probably been through the ups, the
Yeah.
downs, the in between. I'm pretty, if you think about it, you're probably like, dang, like I didn't even realize like this is how long it's been like the type of experience that you have. But before we start, Gerda, say what's up to the podcast.
What's up? What's up? I'm glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh yeah, anytime, anytime. But before we start, we got to get into two truths and a lie. And so
All right.
maybe you might not be good at lying. Who knows? But I don't want I don't want
We're
to
gonna
say
see.
lying should not be a good quality to have. But I'm just saying in the
Yeah.
game, hopefully I can catch the lie.
Okay. All right. All right. So first one is I've been to Nigeria.
Okay.
All right. Second one is I'm vegan.
Mm-hmm.
The third is I'm half Dutch.
Mm.
What's it gonna be?
Wow, that's pretty good. Okay, so
What's it gonna be?
been to Nigeria, a vegan and half Dutch. Mm.
Mm-hmm.
So you seem like you've traveled a lot, like you're a world traveler. I try to look on the page Instagram and just see what the guests are into. Nigeria. You
I don't
probably
know if that's cheating or not, but
you,
nonetheless.
well, I don't think it's cheating. I gotta know who I'm talking to a little bit. So,
Okay. Okay.
but now that you said that, maybe I think Nigeria is the lie. Maybe you've traveled, you just haven't been to Nigeria. So, we'll say vegan. I can believe it. I tried it. It doesn't work. I gotta focus to do it. So, and then
You gotta get your body right though. You gotta get your body right.
right.
Body,
Maybe
mind, soul.
yeah. Maybe you can tell me about that. I'm gonna go with Nigeria is the lie. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I just think that's the lie. I think you do a lot of traveling. You probably been to some amazing places. I just don't think Nigeria is the one. I think maybe on the way, so next upcoming trip. But I'm gonna say that's the lie.
Okay. Well, unfortunately, you're wrong. Because
Oh,
I'm also half Nigerian.
what?
Yeah.
That's
Plot twist.
okay. That's plot twist. so
Plot twist.
okay.
Yeah, I'm
So
half
what's
Nigerian.
so the lie is you're vegan.
Lies, I'm vegan. You know, I know Aisha recommended me. She's vegan,
She
but I couldn't.
is.
Just like you, I can't get with it.
You can't. You was like, you gotta get the mind, body. So I'm
Yeah.
like, maybe she's done. Have you tried to go vegan before?
I haven't tried to go all in, but I think this season I'm gonna try to be a little bit more diligent with my diet. I mean, I'm getting older.
Yeah.
It's not as easy to get in
It's
shape
not.
if I'm
It's not.
it's
It's
not as easy.
not. It's not. I mean,
So,
it's all good, man. I've been trying to rehab this hip for a minute. And it's just like you try to get back in shape, and things just start acting up out of whack. So I think a lot of it does have to do with the diet. So I'm trying to do better. We don't do a lot of beef over here. Beef, not a lot of pork. We do a lot of chicken. And we just try to eat more clean, a little bit more leaner. So we trying our best. But
start.
talk to me about okay, half Dutch and also a part Nigerian. How did that combination come together?
Yeah, I mean that's a great question because it's very different. My parents met in New York in Brooklyn. I was born in Brooklyn,
Okay.
and they met through a mutual friend. I guess a little over 31 years ago,
Yeah.
and then here I came, me and my brother. So it's a very diverse background. Obviously, having like this locals that don't really coincide with each other at all. Like they're not even intersecting anywhere, and like culturally.
Yeah.
As I've gotten older, and especially going to like college in New York, where it's such a diverse place, like I've just really grown to love like that. I have a really diverse background, honestly. Before I thought it was like I grew up in the we see this on Instagram in the African booty scratcher years. So it was. But now,
Yeah.
being Nigerian or African, that's cool. Like
It
that's
is.
like that's in.
Yeah.
It's trendy. So we're peaking at the right time.
That's peaking at the right time. It's pretty dope how
At the right time.
things that were not in previously now it's kind of become more accepting and just I guess it's growth. You really don't realize how much of or we try like within the community we try to grow like things that weren't then. I know you couldn't wear like certain sneakers back in the day like New Balances. I could never probably really go to school in New Balances and people be like, oh, those are hard. Like, bro, what is on your feet?
Yeah.
New Balances? And now it's like everybody got to have a pair. I'm like, all right, whatever.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the thing.
Not just 993s or 995s. There's different ones out now. So
Right? Yeah, I had no idea. I thought it was just the one pair. And I'm like, okay, we got levels to this. That's cool. So before we start, I got to ask you a couple questions. Obviously, you're a basketball official. Who's your favorite NBA player? Also, WNBA player as well. I would love to know this.
Okay. I think right now in the NBA, I really like Morant. I just feel like he has a competitive edge, and I like the fact because I played ball in college as well, and I wasn't like the best player on my team, but I have a dog in me.
Yeah.
So I feel like Ja has that same mid-major grind. Like it doesn't really matter who we're playing.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get it done. So some of these other players, I think they're great, but I think he's just a competitor. I love that about him.
All around.
I think on the WNBA side, I really like Sabrina Ionescu for the same reasons. Obviously, she went to a bigger program, but she's a competitor as well. And you can be talented, but not everybody knows how to compete.
Yeah, it's different. Like you could tell I don't know. It's like you talked about with Ja, coming from a mid-major school. Like he just like you said got that dog. Like, and that's just how he had to kind of be brought up within his program or to be seen, fight to be seen. When you don't have with a major program and you're trying to be seen, you're trying to be taken seriously, you got to go out and just dominate everybody, no matter what level.
Exactly.
Which is cool. But I would love to ask you this question: is to have the dog in you? Can you be born with it, or can it be taught?
I think that's a great question. I think it's taught. I think it's part taught and part life experiences, right?
Okay.
So if a lot of things are given to you, and that doesn't mean you can't come from privilege, because privilege in itself is a gift. So we shouldn't be like wishing to be unprivileged.
Right.
But if you aren't instilled like values of like really working to get something that you want, then you won't really develop that natural dog.
Yeah.
So So if let's say, um, every time something like adverse happens, uh, someone always has a solution for you, and you never have to think about the solution yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you develop that dog?
Yeah.
Really, you never had to eat what you kill.
Yeah.
So, and that goes on different levels. So I think that when you really got to start figuring out if you really want something or not, and how badly do you want it. That goes for like I said, it doesn't matter what socioeconomic bracket you're in. Like,
Yeah.
there's everything somebody wants really badly,
Yep.
but how badly are you going to work to get it?
Yeah, that's a fact. It's hard. I mean, like you said, people talk about privilege. Like, privilege is a gift. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, your parents, whatever background, whatever situation you come from, your parents hopefully wanted the best for you or better than them. So they're going to try to get you in the right places, the right situations. But I, I, I hear like athletes or like famous people talk about it all the time. It's just how do you instill that dog in your kids when they are like super privileged, you know what I mean? Like, and I think it's different because you brought it up with John Morant, and I was like, he's from South Carolina, and I'm like, we probably 45 minutes or an hour to where he lives. That's kind of the distance of where I was born, and I just know
Mm-hmm.
I know his background. I know how he became who he was, and it's just like, could I expect that from somebody that didn't come from that type of background? I don't know. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
I
I
honestly don't
think
know.
I think it's hard. It's hard to say, right? Because even when we compare, like a lot of NBA players now, their kids are obviously coming up,
Mm-hmm.
you know. But just because they have the resources, that doesn't mean you're gonna be great.
No.
You gotta have that plus factor. You have to
Yeah.
have that dog. So you gotta want to get up at early. You gotta want to, whether it even be like, you gotta want to train.
Yeah.
You got more resources, so you know better. So more is
Mm.
expected of you. So you gotta want to be with the best trainers because you can get them. You gotta
Yeah.
want to change your diet because you probably can have a diet plan. Like, you gotta want to do all these things for yourself
Yeah.
and want to really compete, knowing that there's a target on your back every day.
Every day.
There's not a target on John's back when he
No.
was coming up.
No.
No one,
Nobody knew.
but there's some of
Nobody
these other
knew.
kids, that are their parents have already forged a path for them,
Mm-hmm.
and that's whether that be in business or sports. There's a target on their back, so they got to have a different type of dog, but it's a dog nonetheless.
Yeah. I look at like Bronny and Matt Bryce. I look at them, and I'm just like, man. But I think LeBron does a great job. I don't know. We'll see if they have their dog and if they continue to develop. But after that, I do want to ask you, what's the best piece of advice that someone has ever given you?
Some of the best pieces of advice I think I got was to try to get sponsors and mentors you have to diversify your sponsors and mentors.
Mm-hmm.
And that's being said, you can't have all your sponsors and mentors look like you.
Mm.
And I found that to be like uncomfortable advice, but it was real.
Yeah.
And I got it from somebody that was in the C-suite who had been sponsored by somebody that didn't look like you and I. So I was like, okay, well, I mean, it clearly works for him. So I've been trying to do that a little bit more, especially on the sponsorship tip. I think on the mentorship, you obviously you like to be mentored by who you're comfortable with, so you can be your authentic self.
Yeah.
But on the sponsorship, you have to come out your comfort zone, because those are people that can really advocate for you in your profession. And oftentimes they don't look like you and I.
Yeah, I think that's a trick. I think that's some good advice that sometimes we don't like to hear, especially when there's like it's a cultural divide. Sometimes it could be a cultural divide. Especially when we try to do for us. Help Black people. You know what I'm saying. Like, we're trying to get into this where we take care of each other a little bit more in certain areas.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you hear a piece of advice like that says, hey, don't always get a sponsor or a mentor that kind of looks like you or is into the same stuff as you. So what's the difference between, I do want to ask the difference between a sponsor and a mentor for people that may not know?
That's a great question. I would say like a mentor is A mentor is more like a coach. They're kind of more in the trenches with you on a day to day, week to week, or whatever the cadence is that you're meeting. And they hold you accountable, and more like frequent check-ins. Where a sponsor is somebody who is probably more up there than a mentor, but they have influence and they can move and shake in a way that your mentor and yourself simply cannot. And that might be for title, it might be financially, it might be for a number of reasons, but they're able to really move and shake, and they can advocate for you in spaces that you probably would never even be in.
Okay, cool. That makes sense. I'm gonna have to get me a sponsor because nobody ever told me that. So, good advice. I mean, great advice. So I do want to start from the beginning as always. What did young Gerda want to be? Like, what did you want to be growing up? Well, what was your dream? Because I'm pretty sure it changed, but unless it didn't
it doesn't change a couple times.
Oh, that changed the couple. See, I just gotta make sure. Some people, there was a time. I think there's still things that people deal with as far as like having control, like absolute control over their future. Like, I want to be doing this at this time or this at this year, things of that nature. And it's funny because sometimes that never works out and you have to adjust on the fly. So what did you want to be when you were younger? And then what were the changes, as you got older into where you are now?
When I was younger, I definitely thought I wanted to like own my own business. And then when I went to college, though I went on a basketball scholarship, I didn't really know what I wanted to like major in. Really, I knew I wanted to major in business, but like business in itself is so broad. So I elected to like specialize in accounting, and then double major in econ. After college, I wanted to work in finance, or even go like the CPA route. And then I realized very quickly that like that wasn't really for me.
Why was it not for you?
So this is the thing. I think it could have been for me if I really wanted it to be. But I think I decided very quickly that I just wanted something different. I was working in finance for a couple years, and I didn't like it. I felt like it was like a status symbol type of thing. But like a lot of people that I was working with weren't really happy. The energy, nowadays we talk about energy. Back then nobody was talking about energy, but the energy was just not. It was not good. Like I feel like everybody was just kind of like there because of the name. I was also working contracts, so I found it hard to like break in and get a salary role, if I'm being honest. And like despite like going to a good university, despite double majoring, despite being a student athlete, despite graduating early, like I struggled to get a full like a salary position in finance with benefits. So after 3 years of that, I knew it was I probably was being like pushed to do something else.
Yeah, that's a big thing that you talked about as far as like double majoring, going to a school, getting your degrees, and still having a hard time finding a fully salary job. Like, and I don't think kids now understand. Like, I had to realize that to myself too. Like, just because you have a degree doesn't guarantee you a job. Like, you have to. It's like you gotta. It's almost like
there's no direct correlation.
Yeah, there's no direct correlation at all. But that's what that's what our parents obviously tell us. And I think the message came across wrong, right? Go to school, get good grades, get a good job. I think it was more or less like, okay, listen.
Yeah, and it's like 1, 2, 3.
Like going to school will help you qualify to get into the, try to get into the room. But as far as like what's going to differentiate you from other applicants, I believe it comes down to like the experience, building experiences while you're young, being able to talk to those experiences and things of that nature. I think those are the skill sets that we have to speak on to the younger generation, because just because you go to school doesn't necessarily mean you get the job. So to you, how did that make you feel? How did that make you feel knowing that you did everything that you were told to do and you still were having a hard time, finding that fully salary job? Did it make you just be like, bump school? Like, why did I waste my time?
I'll be honest. I was like kind of demoralized for a little bit because I felt like I had done all the right things, for lack of a better term, like, and it was like, I think I had like the idea that our parents, both my parents didn't grow up here. So
Mm-hmm.
one of my parents went to college, the other one didn't. So I didn't really have a lot of like guidance as far as like career path, or even like what like how to like really get a job.
Navigate.
I learned a lot of that stuff on my own.
Yeah.
So I just felt like though I had done all the right things, I was feeling so behind. Um, and I think that was also why we kind of talk about mentorship and sponsorship, because it's hard to get all the entry level jobs. Just talk about like 2 years experience.
Mm-hmm.
Being a student athlete, I didn't get the chance to do any internships. Like we have to be there in the summer, so I didn't have internships.
Yeah.
Even though I worked in college, I worked at a country club in an accounting office. Like I worked on campus some like small jobs.
Mm-hmm.
So I had experience, but
Nothing that
still,
correlated. Yeah.
nothing. So I just felt like I was hustling backwards almost. Honestly, I was
Yeah.
hustling backwards. I was like, dang, I can't get a job, and I need to figure out how to like someone to plug me, because essentially my resume is amongst a bunch of other resumes of young professionals that just graduated. I didn't go to the HBCU, so
Yeah.
the diversity campaigns aren't coming to look for me.
No.
Stony Brook. So yeah, it was really tough, because some of my friends that did go the HBCU route, and granted they paid, they had jobs.
Yeah.
So I was feeling like a little down that, like, yeah, though I got my school paid for, like I'm paying for it and like on the back end, because I don't have a job or a career right now really that I feel comfortable in.
Yeah, that's a huge thing that a lot of people deal with. I think sometimes when you go through stuff, you feel like you alone, like you're the only one that kind of like, dang, how I get caught up hustling backwards. You know what I mean? Like, and then it's also, you said something, it's like I did everything right. It's almost like, and maybe if you play sports in college, so I feel like sports, or the lessons you learned by playing ball, kind of helped you maybe navigate through this time period, is because even in sports you can feel like I'm doing everything right. The coach, I'm doing what the coach say. I'm showing up to workouts early. I'm working hard. I'm busting the person that's in front of me. I'm busting their tail every day at practice. But at the same time, you still may not be presented the opportunity to show what you're made of. So I guess, what did you rely on during that time, where you were trying to figure out the right career path? Was it, were you relying on your faith? Were you relying on, networking a lot? I just want to know, like, what was your secret sauce? Because there's people that's in the same rut right now that's just looking for a nugget to get out of that.
Yeah, I think I think being the best, you can't really give up. So I kind of put myself in. I'm not sure if this is like the best thing to do, but my mom lives in Virginia, DMV area, and I decided after college I wasn't moving back home, because I wanted to like do the full finance thing in New York. And though I was contract making $20 an hour, I just stayed up in New York and kind of put myself like through the fire.
Yeah.
So that's $20 an hour, that equates to what, $40,000 a year. It's not a lot to live in Brooklyn, New York.
Not in New York.
So I had to grind a little bit, and then also I started going to my university has like the Black and Latino Alumni Association, so I kind of went to a couple of their events.
Okay.
And got on the alumni board. Like, we don't have a really like robust. We were trying to build it up.
Yeah.
Have a lot of like Black Latinx people that went to the university, but we're trying to build up our alumni pipeline. So I just started like volunteering my time with them, just as a way to like kind of get roped in with some alums that were CPAs or in finance, and I did a lot of like coffee talks, honestly. Trying to get that plug.
Yeah.
If I'm being honest, trying to get that plug. So I would say that is something that you can do that's like a low lift, but just you gotta like ask for what you want. So, I was meeting with people and telling them that like, hey, like I need I'm looking for a salary role. Like this is what I've done so far. This is my experience. And I would do that like all the time, honestly.
Yeah.
Like I probably like every other week I was doing one of those in person because I was back in like 2014, 13. And then also just going to those meetings and like just being vocal, showing them good ideas, like building like authentic relationships with those people that were already on the board.
Yeah, it seems like a very humbling experience, when you have to put yourself out there to people and rejection.
Oh yeah.
Rejection. Sometimes I mean, like just me personally, like I've gotten rejected so many times. You get rejected more times than you get yeses. So it can be humbling, in the beginning, especially if you're not used to just being like, asking for help or wanting help. But I guess when you put yourself in those type of circumstances where your back is against the wall, like I'm in New York, I gotta find a way to scrap and eat. Going back to having that dog, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like everything kind of correlates. So it doesn't surprise me that you would put yourself in that situation because of the first statement is, I was a dog, like John Morant. So it's just like it makes sense. But how did we become the switch go from CPA accounting to software engineer?
Yeah. So when I was working in finance, one day, so one of my friends was working with me in finance. I had like referred him to the job. So we went to college together. He was also a student athlete. So we were working together, and they had like fired half our floor.
Yeah.
But we weren't let go. There was a lot of I would say like older professionals that were let go, and they were just automating systems.
Okay.
So we were talking at lunch, and he was telling me how his cousin had did a tech boot camp.
Yeah.
And that's the first time I had heard about it. So this is fall 15, I think. Yeah, fall 15. So, so he was saying that he's about to probably like try to do the same thing. Like, they're handing out 6-figure jobs over there.
Yeah.
And as I told you, like, and he's honestly in a better position than me because he lives at home. So at least he's not paying rent.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, like, so I had applied and I got accepted for the boot camp, but I had to go to Nigeria at that time for like a death in the family. So when you do tech boot camp, you can't miss like two or more days. Like that's like because
it's fast.
We're learning. So at that time, it was like around the same time I had got news that we needed to go to Nigeria for an extended period of time. So I had put that on pause, and realistically, it was for the best because I probably didn't have enough bread to go because boot camp is not the cheapest. It's cheaper than college, but it's not that cheap. So so I put that on pause for the time being, and I got a different opportunity a couple months later, which is when I started learning how to referee.
Okay, got you. So obviously we put that on pause. Software engineer, and we got into refereeing. Now, what made you pick up refereeing?
Okay, so as I told you, I was broke.
Okay, yes, I told you I was broke.
I was broke. So, the basketball community is fairly small. So I met one of my homegirls. She was repping for some extra money. She was from New York. So she was like, hey, you can come over here. You can ref, make a couple extra dollars. So I was like, perfect, cash. Like, I could put some money in the car, like extra money on the weekend. Good. It's a nice little side hustle. So I started doing that, like doing some like little kids, honestly, middle school, like didn't really know what I was doing, messing up games left and right. And I didn't really like hear about it as a profession because the people that were teaching me were very knowledgeable. But I mean, we're in like street basketball, for lack of a better term. Like, so we're talking about like, summer ball.
Yep.
We're talking about and like the high school association in New York. So at the time I was just like I said, trying to get some cash in my pocket for my like leisure expenses, give myself a little bit of wiggle room so I could feel like I was thriving and not just surviving.
Got to thrive.
So, so I was still in finance and I hated it, obviously. And one of the women that were on the board with me for the Black Latino Alumni Association, was telling me that she was hiring for a program. She was putting this program together for former players that wanted to become referees, that wanted to learn how to be a referee.
What in the world?
Yeah. Yeah, it was really like, it was God's plan, honestly.
Yeah.
So I went to the meeting, which happened to be in between where she worked and I worked, and she worked at the NBA office at the time. So I went to the meeting that happened to be between where she works and I work in Midtown Manhattan. And she's extremely busy. So like the fact that she was even there in person is like a miracle.
Right.
And then I almost didn't go to the meeting because I just wasn't in the right space, because I was just like so like frustrated with like applying for jobs and not being able to like just navigate up out of finance, because I was trying to figure out how can I get into tech without coding. Like I need to figure this out. Like I don't got money for the boot camp right now. So I go to the meeting anyway, and she's asking me like, oh, like, what are you doing this weekend? I was like, oh, just working some basketball games. like, what are you doing? And she was like, oh, like I'm putting together a program at the league office for former players that want to become refs. And I was like, what? She was like, would you be interested in doing it full time? So I put together, she was like, send me your referee resume.
Yeah.
I don't have one.
What is that? Time out. What does a referee resume look like?
Yeah. Now it's like, my referee resume is more robust. But at the time, it was like, okay, I've done 30, like 12 and under games. Like I'm part of this like referee group. It was very like haphazard. So a lot of filler information on there. So I sent her that in my professional resume, and I got to interview for the position, and I was one of the 8 selected. So life-changing opportunity. And that was the first class that they had, and now I think there's been like 3 or 4 classes total.
That's crazy. I mean, just thinking about like during your trial time, you join the the alumni program, just trying to get a job or get plugged in. You know what I mean? And then you go and you just like, man, I'm gonna just make a little extra change, do this little referee thing, blow the whistle, wet the whistle a couple times, whoop, foul. You know what I'm saying? Make sure they get back down the court. And, like just try not to mess up the games too much, because the parents gonna be on you.
They're on you.
And then you end up with the same alumni group finding, the major opportunity to, continue to ref. So that's huge. I mean, so, okay. So from there, like, what are you, like, what games are you refereeing now? Like, are you on a collegiate level now? Are you high school level? Like, what level are you refereeing at now?
Present day or at the time?
So present day.
Present day. So right now I do Division I women's college.
That's hard. Okay, got you. Now, what's the difference between Division I women's college and, let's say, what you were doing with the kids? I mean, I feel like I know the difference, but like,
I think, I mean, there's a lot of differences.
I was just trying to figure out like the knowledge gap, like, or the like. What all did you have to go through to get to Division I? Like, because what if somebody wants to be a ref? Like, this is a thing. Like, I look at refs all the time, and I couldn't tell anybody how to become a ref. I'm like, I don't know how you would get into a ref. The only refs I know are your pee-wee little leagues, maybe high school. But like, I want to, like, if I was to be a ref, I would want to ref collegiate sports, or or at least find a way to get to collegiate sports, and maybe the NFL, the big ticket. You know what I mean? How do you like? What's the program? Like, how do you get to Division I women's basketball?
Yeah, I mean, the natural progression, it definitely is starting at that those Pee-wee Boys and Girls Club, CYO, whatever they have locally, like those local rec leagues. So then you're gonna figure out if you really like it, because you're gonna have those parents yelling at you, and they don't care. They don't care if you're new. They don't care if they don't know what you're doing, because at the end of the day, they want to see their kids succeed, and you're in the way of their child succeeding.
You're in the way.
So once you really figure out if you can handle that type of pressure,
Mm-hmm.
then you'll start progressing and you'll want to join your local high school board. And every area has like a local high school board, which does the local high school public school games, and they
Mm-hmm.
might do also the private school. Um, and most like metropolitan areas, like New York and the DC area, and like Boston, places like that. I would say the private high schools are better competition.
Mm-hmm.
But nonetheless, like you start moving your way between like freshman, JV, varsity, and high school.
Yeah.
Um, and then at that point in time, it'll be probably time for you to start thinking about going to like these tryout camps. So just like they have tryouts for like, players,
Yeah. Yeah.
tryouts for refs. So the trial camps are the same, like tiered, well, JUCO, D3, D2, D1.
Okay.
So, once you break into like the college level, whether it be at the JUCO or D3 level, depending on like where you're located, some places don't really have a lot of JUCOs around them.
Mm-hmm.
You do a couple of years, however, it's just depending on your skill level and how much like you're really like grinding, honestly.
Gotcha.
It can be very quick or it can take a little bit of time. This really depends. But once you do a couple of years of that, then you'll start moving up to like Division One, like mid-major or low mid-major, and then to like Power 5.
Wow. Okay. So you talk about skill level.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not trying to, I'm really coming as a child's point of view, ignorant.
Mm-hmm.
How much skill is in refereeing? Like, I know you gotta know the rules. You know what I mean? You gotta know the rules, but I really want you to break this down to me. What skill sets do you need? What makes you to be a good referee?
All right. Well, first you gotta be in shape.
I see that. Like, you gotta be.
You gotta be in shape. Because it don't matter if it's 9 and under or they're 19, they're running full speed.
Up and down.
So you gotta be in shape. That's one of the first things.
Okay.
Definitely gotta be in shape. Obviously, getting your rule book is key. But then also, it's one thing to know the rules, but then it's another thing to apply the rules in real time. So, I mean, everybody that's like likes basketball knows what a travel is.
Yeah.
But to now see a travel and now have to tell your brain to blow the whistle while also doing this motion and pointing, knowing which way to point. That's a whole nother thing.
Wow.
So it's, putting all that stuff together because the rules, obviously there's intricacies in the rules, especially at the different levels, like women's college versus high school, or even women's college, men's college versus the pro.
Different.
Or pro NBA, WNBA versus FIBA. There's all this different nuances. Most of the stuff is the same, but there's different nuances. But also, it's now like we have to apply those rules in real time. So that's a lot of that type of stuff is what kind of goes into it, and that's what separates like good from great or good from okay.
Yeah.
And then it's just your presence on the court. So once again, you can know all the rules, but if you don't have any presence, they're coming after you.
How do you display your presence?
I think presence is really this like being sharp with your signals. But it's also like a player. It's like a type of confidence that you exude. Like even when you're wrong.
Yeah.
You have to have a certain type of confidence with you, but also let's say, or even de-escalating a coach because if you're a good ref, you also know when you're wrong. Like we're not perfect, so being able to say to a coach with confidence but saying like, hey, like I might have got that one wrong, or I need to take a look at that one, but not like cowering, but just hey, like you start to still have that type of confidence with you that you got that one wrong, but you're not gonna I didn't get all the wrong.
Man, you gotta be one.
You can't be too scared.
Yeah, you gotta be one heck of a ref, because I'm telling you, I've seen how people act towards refs, and like I'm watching NFL refs right now. They doing all this, Tom Brady rule, pass interference, that type of stuff. Like people are losing games over certain calls, and so like I know like coaches, everybody's like getting on you hard, like to be able to stand your ground when it's like 50 something people on one sideline saying, F you, what are you doing?
Yeah.
It's wrong. And then it's also the fact that, let's just say if you did make a mistake, it's like, dang, I got that wrong, but I gotta tell them.
Yeah,
Look.
you gotta have let's like when you're playing and you have a bad play,
Yeah.
you can have a short-term memory. Because think about it, if I'm so worried about the play I got wrong on this end, then it's just gonna pile up. And we're our biggest critic, honestly. No one wants to get plays wrong. Like that's the worst feeling.
Yeah.
Because you can't get it back. Like I can, when I'm a player, I can hustle, make a defensive stop. I can't do that as a referee. I just gotta get my mind right for the next play.
Yeah.
So just as much as people like, obviously, we make mistakes. We also take it just as hard as the coach is upset. But it's not a good feeling when you got to play wrong, or you made a mistake that you feel like you're better than that. You've already prepared, so you feel like that mistake is something that you shouldn't be doing.
Got you, man. I'm super excited, man. I ain't gonna keep you long. I know we coming up on an hour. I like to keep everything on the hour and respect people's time. But while I still got a little bit more time, I do want to ask. Okay, what's your next step for you? Like, do you want to stay in Division I women's basketball for a while? Like, you think that's your level, or are you trying to pursue WNBA referee or NBA referee? I don't know what's next.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that when I was a little younger, I was putting a lot of pressure on like what I wanted to be as far as like my referee career.
Yeah.
And I think that hurt me a lot, honestly, mentally, because it's like refereeing, it's a lot of pressure during the games, and then it's at times it can be a lot of pressure off the court too, because a lot of people don't know like refereeing is competitive. There's only a certain amount of Division I referees. There's definitely only a certain amount of NBA and WNBA referees. So when I was a little younger and I just had like really got introduced to officiating as a career, I was putting pressure on myself to get to this level by a certain timeline, and it was kind of like messing me up mentally.
Got you. Yeah.
You kind of start like comparing yourself and your timeline to other people's timelines. So I told myself as I like matured that I want to go out there and like progressively get better each season, but I don't want to be so hyper focused on a certain goal for refereeing that I lose sight of everything else.
I got you. That makes sense. I got you. I can see that too. Like I think even for myself, when I look at my career and like how like I got managers and people that tell me all the time like you move super fast, like you're ambitious, and I'm like, yeah, because like the one thing that I was always taught, my mom always said is like, if you're gonna get a promotion, make sure it's up, make sure it's an upward promotion or a lateral move that sets you up for an upward promotion. And so for me, I get bored easily, and so like when I start to get bored, I'm like, all right, it's time to change it up. And so I do start pursuing, different, like just try to get to the next stage and things of that nature. And so now I'm in a place where the role that I'm in, there's nobody that's been in my role for the less amount of time I've been with the company. So like everybody else is more tenured, 15, 12. I'm only 4 years. And so they tell me like I'm having meetings because I'm at the stage where I'm getting bored again. So it's like, all right, what's next? And they're telling me like, slow down. But I don't like hearing those words. Like, don't tell me to slow down because you know what I mean?
I think, I think some careers are like that. I don't think all are like that though. I think like society as a whole is shifting, right? Like people are not staying in jobs for 10, 20, 30 years. They're just not doing it. And that's okay.
Yeah.
Because I think our generation, we know our worth.
Yeah.
So I think in certain careers, especially in corporate, you kind of have to, once you master something, it's okay to now level up, because if you stay at the same place, you might not get that financial compensation that you would get if you got another challenge outside of the current company. So I think like when it comes to stuff like that, it's kind of different when opposed to like refereeing. Like um, it's more like time based. You know,
Yeah.
you can't pop up on the scene and now you got the NBA ref. It just doesn't
Yeah.
happen. You
Yeah.
know, but and it doesn't like that. That goes for like no matter how much I'm going to be in shape or read my book, like it's going to take some time because you have to get some reps,
Yeah, you
and
gotta
like
get
those
the
reps are what's
reps.
going to make you better.
Yeah.
Whereas like in tech, you know, you grind, you can just keep going up.
Yeah.
So why would I stay stagnant?
It's almost like sports. You know, you're refereeing. Like you can't, you know, you're not gonna take somebody straight out of high school football and take them to NFL football. Like they got to get those reps. They got to mature. They got to, you know, you just can't skip those, you know, 2 to 3 years that you stay in college, and you can't miss out on that type of development. So when you talk, I think you know, I listen and hear refereeing is almost the exact same thing, and because it's limited, like super limited, just like collegiate sports when you get scholarships and you're trying to go to the
Yep.
professionals, like it's super limited. So what sets you apart and what's gonna, you know, be the differentiation factor from you? So listen, Gerda, I had a fun. This was fun, getting to know about refereeing, because now I know how to, you know, I can guide somebody and be like, look, this is what you got to do to become a ref, but it's gonna take reps. You got to be in shape. Do you have a trainer, personal trainer, or you train yourself?
No, I don't actually. Listen, I train myself. You know.
Okay, my bad, my bad. Hey, get it
No, it's
in.
all. I feel like there's all these resources. You know,
Yeah.
online. I don't even pay for that, but you know, if you do, there's nothing against that. It's just
Yeah.
I opt not to.
Got you. I got you. That makes sense. That makes sense. Well, listen, I do appreciate you. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your openness to talk about, you know, your career path, how you got to where you are, becoming a referee. I hope you have a continuous, prosperous journey doing what you're doing. I hope you know, you found a little bit of peace behind and joy behind what you're doing now. And I just, it was fun listening to you, how you progressed and just how everything kind of just worked backwards. And I hope you realize like what you're doing is like super amazing. Like we need more people like you that's doing what you're doing. And your story is meant to be told as well too, because you could help a lot of people going through that hardship of just, you know, you doing everything right, but it's still not working. And I think there's a gem in that as far as like not giving up. You know what I mean? And I think that's what you're living. Like, you know, everything that's coming to fruition for you and that's continually going to come is like, I didn't give up when I could have. You know what I mean? And so
Yeah.
I appreciate you. Hope you had fun.
No, no, I did. I had a bunch of fun. I think the main takeaway I want your listeners to get is that it's okay to pivot. And if you got to make another pivot, that's also okay. But make sure, like, you know, give yourself enough time that you put your all into something, and that as you try to figure out what's next. Because who we were in college, who we are as young adults, who we're going to be, you know, in the next decade is all going to change. So we're constantly evolving.
Yeah.
And we can't be afraid to go with that evolution, especially as society's evolving as well. So
yeah, I think that's a good piece to end it off with. The only thing I ask is, do you have any recommendation that comes to the top of your head? I usually take one. If you got 1 to 2, somebody that I could sit down with that fits the mold of the podcast. Do you have any people on your mind?
yeah, I would say one of my best friends, his name is Rashad Keratin. I think he has an interesting story as well. Has pivoted a couple of times and is really successful as well in the tech space. So whom I really admire, somebody who honestly put that tech bug in my ear.
Yeah.
And is the reason why I'm a software engineer today. So
that's dope. That's dope. Okay, cool. Well, if you can send me maybe his Instagram URL link, I'll reach out to him. Just let him know, like, this guy reaches out to you. It's nothing weird. It's just for the podcast. I know it's hard to reach people these days and just shoot the shot in the DM. So gotta be careful. But other than that, I'm gonna let you go. Hope you have a good rest of your week, and thank you again. It means a lot to me.
yeah, no problem. Thank you for having me.
Yep. See ya.